Shalom, everyone, again.
I am Rabbi James Byers.
And I'm Rabbi Savia Byers.
And we're coming to you live from West Africa. We're in Ghana, that is.
Yes, and we were just, so we don't want to just come on and act like we haven't had a problem tonight, but we're having connection issues. We think there may be something going on with a tower or something, but because our phones are even acting up.
In other words, technical difficulty. So we're going to kind of pick up where we left off. So if you were able to catch any of the reading, if you go on and check out the archives, you may be able to pull that up.
Yeah.
But what we're going to suggest that you read Jeremiah chapter 49, and we're just going to kind of give you at this point a summary of Jeremiah 49, which is the judgment according to Yahweh, concerning, as it begins, concerning Ammon, the Ammonites. And who are the Ammonites? The Ammonites are the sons of Lot, sons and daughters of Lot. Last week, we dealt with Jeremiah 48, which was about Moab. This week, 49, now it talks about the Ammonites, and not only the Ammonites, but it starts with the Ammonites and then calls several other cities. Edom, it calls Basra, just different nations that are neighboring countries, or not countries, but neighboring cities. Heshbon, Rabbah, Melcom. Yes.
Yeah, so that was the last one.
Yes. So as he calls different cities, he also speaks concerning Damascus, verse 23, concerning Damascus, Hamath, and Arpad have been put to shame, for they have heard an evil report. They have been melted in anxiety, like the sea, unable to rest. Damascus has become feeble. She has turned to flee, and trembling has taken hold of her. Distress and pain have seized her like a woman in labor. How is the city of praise deserted for the city of my joy? So just kind of bringing all of these into context. Verse 28 brings in Kedar, Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon. So how does that relate to us today? Well, this would be a sign, symbol of Yeshua's return, because Damascus, as is called here, as you read through, one thing I've learned to do is to continue to read Yahweh's Torah, because he hides his truth between the pages. What do I mean? Just as Jeremiah is warning us about the different cities, and Damascus is also called, I want to go to Isaiah chapter 17 and take another viewpoint, and let's see if this is relevant to us today. So Isaiah chapter 17, verse 1, and we'll drop down a little bit, but let's go to verse 1. Isaiah 17, verse 1. The message concerning Damascus. See, Damascus ceased to be a city and shall become a heap of ruins. The city of Arar are forsaken. They are for flocks which shall lie down, frightened, and the stronghold shall cease from Ephraim, and the rain from Damascus. The remnant of Aram be as the esteem of the sons of Israel, declares Yahweh of hosts. Verse 4, And in that day it shall be that the esteem of Yaakov wanes, and the fatness of his freshness grows lean. And it shall be as when the harvesters gather the grape or gather the grain, and reapers the head with his arm, and it shall be as he who gathers heads of grain in the valley of Rephaim, and gleaning grapes shall be left in it, like the shaking of the olive tree, 2 or 3 olives at the top of the othermost branch, 4 or 5 in its most fruit-bearing branches, declares Yahweh Elohim of Israel. Verse 7, in that day man shall look at his maker, and his eyes turn to the set-apart one of Israel. So verse 7 really gives us the clearest point of view with the timeline of what to expect, because it says, in that day. So, as we read in Jeremiah, we could say, well, isn't this during Babylon, since it brings Babylon into focus also, or Nebuchadnezzar, verse 28. But it's not entirely during that time in the fall of Babylon and those cities, but it says, in that day, man shall see his maker. So if that's the case, this has to be the return of Messiah and a sign of the return. So what is the relevance here? Let's go back to 2008, not 18, but 2011. 18 is 7 years later, but 2011, what took place? Well, this was the fall of Damascus. What is Damascus? Damascus is the capital of Syria. And if you have seen Syria, Syria looks like what they're showing on the news today of Hamas in not West Bank. Gaza, thank you. So it looks worse than Gaza because of all of the shelling and the fighting that have been taking place. And so that was a 7-year period from the 2018 period, which is the 70th year. A lot of symbols here and a lot of timeline to reconcile, but just understand that it is very relevant to the period of time that we are now involved in, where the 70th year came 2018, the 400th year came in 2019, which is the end of the exilic period of Israel. And so now what do we see? We see a lot of movement around the world. 2023, just this year, when Israel was attacked, which is the time that Abraham left with a promise of multiplicity, that his seed would inherit the land. So again, there's a lot of movement that is taking place. So I just kind of gave you some pieces of timeline, some events that are going on, wars, rumors of wars, all of that is what I'm talking about. What is happening right now, they're talking about another wave of another Omicron, COVID. So there's so much going on right now that we have to understand that Yahweh is preparing to gather his elect from the four corners, but not many understand.
Well, if you go back to 7, and it talks about 49:7. It talks about Edom and Edom being judged.
Right.
And a lot of this information that it's given, it also it says Edom, not only Edom being judged, but also his neighbors being
Yes.
punished
Right.
and ravished along with them, leaving your fatherless children. And then he goes on down into 13, and he talks about Bozrah. He says that Bozrah is to become a ruin, a reproach, a waste, and a curse, and all its cities become everlasting waste. Well, that takes my mind back to, is it in Isaiah where he says, who is this coming out of Bozrah?
Isaiah 59.
With his
I have it pulled
garment
up.
drenched
63.
in blood. And it's Father Yah is saying he's going to lay waste and have make war against this. Now, Basra, I'm kind of just tying those two together because he's talking about the judgment of Edom happening. And then he says, for I have sworn by myself that Basra is to become a ruin. And then we see in Isaiah where he's saying, who is this coming out of Basra?
I have it right here.
Okay, you want to go ahead and read that.
Isaiah 63, so that we can tie these together and understand what is to take place. Isaiah 63, verse 1. Who is this coming from Edom with garments of glowing colors from Bozrah? Who is robed in splendor, striding forward in the greatness of his strength? It is I who speaks in righteousness, mighty to save. Why is there red on your raiment or your garments? Like one who treads in the winepress. I have trodden the winepress alone, and from the peoples no one was with me. And I trod them down in my displeasure, and I trampled them in my wrath. Their blood sprinkled upon my garments, and I have defiled my raiment. For a day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed has come. And I looked, but there was none helping me. And I was astonished that there was none upholding. So my own arm saved for me, and my wrath upheld me. And I trod down peoples in my displeasure, and made them drunk in my wrath, and both down, and brought down their strength to the earth. Right there, verse 9. And all this distress, he was distressed, and the messenger of his presence saved them. In his love and in his compassion, he redeemed them. He lifted them up and carried them all the days of old. But they rebelled and grieved his set-apart spirit, so he turned against them as an enemy, and he fought against them. Then he remembered the days of old, Moshe, his people. Where is he who brought them up out of the sea with the shepherd of his flock? Where is he who has set his set-apart spirit within him? Who led them out? Who led them by the right hand of Moshe with his comely ram or comely arm, dividing the water before them to make for himself an everlasting name.
So there we go. He said he was coming out of Edom, out of Basra, and his garment has red.
Covered in blood. So this is a picture.
And it's a splendid garment.
Yes.
So he is robed. We know that he said at the, that's in the, I believe it's in where he is robed in splendor. Good gracious, I can't remember where it states that. But we know it's talking about the Most High, Yahweh.
And verse 4 spells it out because it says, "For a day of vengeance is in my heart."
There you go. And he's talking it right here in Jeremiah 49. And speaking of Jeremiah prophesying of that day that is to come. And that he says he's going to make war with Edom. And he's going to go and make Basra a waste and a ruin. And not just Edom, but all of the neighbors all around.
And as I said, we must recognize that these things are now upon us. It's not coming, it's here. This is what we see when we look at all of the different Arab nations. We look at those who are in the land right now today. We look at those who are in the nation, the diaspora. And Yahweh is stirring the whole earth, but people don't recognize what's going on. But these ancient cities, ancient towns, are all today called by different names.
Right.
So you don't know because the names have been replaced. But Yahweh knows every bloodline, and Yahshua, when he fights against Edom, it won't be just Edom. Who is Edom? Esau. Esau, the bloodline of Esau. So who is Esau? Esau is the brother, twin brother of Yaakov. So he's fighting against Esau, and he's going to deliver Yaakov's siblings, or children.
Yaakov's children. And the thing of it is, well, we have to look at, and I just want to say something to that point. When Father Yah talks about fighting against Esau, he is talking about fighting against that character of Esau. These people and nations that have taken on that character of Esau. Also, we don't know the names have been changed of these places,
Right.
but that doesn't mean that the prophecy that's coming against that place is not going to happen. You can change your name all you want to.
Exactly.
But it doesn't matter. What Father Yah says and prophesies through or gives to his prophets is going to come to pass. So all of these nations have that character of Esau, where they do not hold true to the one true and living God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They do not. What was Esau's major problem is that Esau was rebellious. He went against the covenant of his parents, and he knew he was not supposed to marry into the Canaanites and then he ran to Ishmael's line. He was just rebellious.
Right.
And then also he didn't trust Father Yahweh. He didn't trust him. So he was
that he could get him out of trouble he was in.
Yes, there you go. So all of these nations have those same characteristics as Esau. So when we see Father Yah speaking concerning Esau in prophecy, he is talking about that character and focusing on all of the nations of that character, that bloodline that is coming down from Esau, carrying those characteristics.
So I think we can move on to Mark 14 and do our best because we're having technical problems.
And so far we're doing well. So we thank you all for who's ever on staying with us, whoever came back.
We're in Mark 14.
Mark 14.
And Mark 14 is a rather long one, so what we'll do is just take section by section and go with a summary to try to, get through as much as we can. So,
Okay, Mark 14.
if you can hand me my phone, I want to be able to get to those subtopics. All right, so.
Okay, Mark 14, the plot to kill Yahshua. We start out with that. And that's 1 and 2. And then Yahshua goes to Bethany, anointed at Beth Anya.
So let's start at verse 1 and begin to work our way down.
Okay.
Verse 1 and 2 we can read through. And the Passover and the unleavened food were after 2 days, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to beguile. Oh, this is not scriptures. Let me change. Okay, there we go. Now the Pesach or Passover and the feast of Matzah or unleavened bread were after 2 days, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to take him through treachery and put him to death. And he said, not at the and they said, not at the festival, lest there shall be an uproar of the people. So looking at this, they're now plotting to take Yahshua. How can they best get to him? Because they know that if they do it openly, there might be an uproar from the people.
Because this is the same Yahshua who is healing the sick,
right,
raising the dead, giving sight to the blind, making the lame walk, and the blind see. So feeding 5,000, feeding 7,000. Yeah, so the people don't want them touching Yahshua at this point. But that's why they it says
they had to do it secretly.
And they had to build up a case against him to justify what they were getting ready to do.
So, moving to the next portion,
which is
this is the time that Yahshua is anointed by Miriam with her hair. And
do you want to read it, or
I was going to just jump down to verse 6.
Okay.
So as she was anointing him, verse 6 says, if you want to read that, verse 6 and 7.
Okay, but Yahshua said, leave her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has done a good work for me. For you have the poor with you always, and you are able to do good to them whenever you wish, but you do not always have me.
So at this point, they were trying to, this is Judas Iscariot, who is trying to bring up, the perfume that she was anointing him with, and saying that it's a waste because, they could have gotten some money for it.
Yeah, that's in 3. Why is this perfume wasted? We could have sold it. Right. But then I think you got to read 8 and 9 to see what Yahshua was saying. Continued, he says, what she had, she used. She took it beforehand to anoint my body for the burial. So he's letting them know right there that he knows that his time is up, and he's letting them know that his time is up, and it's time for him to become the Passover lamb, to be the one in sacrificial.
So 10 and 11 brings us to the point of Yehuda, who is from Kerioth. He is the one who then goes to the chief priest to now bring up Yahshua and receive payment, because his heart has already been exposed by him, bringing up a complaint about the perfume that was used on Yeshua's feet, and how she worshipped with her hair. And so this was Miriam, who they looked at as a prostitute. And so it wasn't looked upon favorably as she began to worship Yeshua, not even speaking the word. And when he says, leave her alone, she's preparing me for my burial. So this for us give us a timeline. It says, and after 2 days, the Passover. So we know with concrete evidence that this is the Passover, because Yeshua is now being prepared to be sacrificed.
Sacrificial.
And so verse 12 takes us into the first day of unleavened bread. The first day of unleavened bread, they asked, where do you wish for us to prepare for the Passover gathering? And so the first day of unleavened bread is the Passover.
Right, exactly.
So when
Correct.
you say unleavened bread, you are including Passover, which is not unleavened bread, because it's the next evening.
Right.
So you have to include.
You have to include Passover and unleavened bread.
Right.
And two, it's interesting that they say that it's used in that way, and on the first day of unleavened bread. So they were slaughtering the Pesach lamb, because there's some thought out there that during Passover you don't have to have all the leaven out until unleavened bread.
Right.
But really,
it's one with unleavened.
Exactly.
The day of unleavened bread.
Exactly, because you're eating unleavened bread during even the ceremony of the telling,
Right.
the Haggadah, the telling of the story of Passover.
And I look at it just like Passover itself and Sukkot. With Sukkot, it says 7 days you do this, and on the eighth day.
Yeah, he
So,
adds 1 day.
With Passover, he says 7 days you do this, which includes the first day.
Right.
So in the front, you have an 8th day, followed by 7 days of unleavened bread. But there's an 8th day that you must connect to it,
which is the first day.
Which is the first day.
Right.
So it represents the beginning and the end. They both look the same.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. And one is put so perfectly on the beginning,
right,
Pesach, and one is put perfectly on the end, the last
They're
great
both
day.
8 days. You don't
They're
count
last 8 days.
Sukkot as 7 days.
Right.
And then that 1 day as
separate
right.
celebration.
So if that is
Right.
8 days,
right,
then Passover too is an 8-day period.
right.
But anyway.
Exactly.
Oh, so the next part starts at verse 22. And so we can see that they are, and I'll read it. And as they were eating, Yeshua took bread, having blessed, broke it, gave it to them, and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And take a cup of giving thanks. He gave it to them, and they all drank from it. So right here, we see where they are now taking part together in the, and we know the beginning says, and after 2 days. So there's a 2-day period where it started, but we also got to keep in mind that Yahshua, as the Passover, is also taking part in the Passover supper with the taught ones.
Right.
So there's a major of contention as to the timeline, of which I won't get into right here, but just understand that on the 14th, the night of the 14th, they and beat him the whole night. So it was Passover night. When does Passover night come in? The same night that Sabbath night comes in. I'll explain it really quickly here. Passover night is on Friday. Passover day is on Saturday.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I said Passover. So Sabbath night comes in the eve Friday night every week. And then Passover day, the daytime portion, comes in on Saturday. If you wait till sundown Saturday, you have missed the Sabbath evening. So in other words, you seem perplexed as I say that.
Because you're saying, it's sounding like you're saying Passover every year is Friday.
No,
Because
that's
I
what
think
I'm
you have to
saying.
make
I mixed
that
up Passover with Sabbath. And then I went back and said, I mean Sabbath.
Sabbath.
So let me say it again, because if you missed it, somebody else missed it.
Yes.
Sabbath is the same as the way Passover takes place.
Yes, yes.
So one step at a time. Every week we celebrate Sabbath.
Right.
So if I say, meet me on Sabbath night, you would meet me on Friday night. Mm-hmm. Because if you wait till Saturday and sundown goes down,
Sabbath is over.
Sabbath is gone. Right. You're too late.
Right.
This is what happens with Passover as well. So the Passover night comes the eve before, and then Passover day. So Yahshua, the night portion of the 14th, and then all day of the 14th, longer the 14th, but the 5th, which is now the Sabbath, and his body had to be taken down off the stake before the sun went down, or we would still be in a perpetual state of death, because Yahshua would not have completed what he came to complete. But just like Yehuda, he came as our guarantor. Right. So he completed his task, and he will return to the Father with his brothers.
Oh, yeah. Those baskets of broken
yes.
bread. Broken.
Exactly.
Hallelujah.
So let's see.
Then we go to 26, which is Kiva's denial. Yahshua.
You want to go ahead and take us into that part?
Okay, 27. And Yahshua said to them, all of you shall stumble in me this night. And must I say, people are still stumbling over Yahshua.
He is stone stumbling.
Yes, he is. For it has been written, I shall strike the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered. Mm-hmm. He's quoting from Zechariah 13:7. He goes on to say, but I am raised, I shall go before you to Gilead. He says, but after I am raised. So he's telling them that he's going to get up, even though he's going to be crucified. He said, I will go before you to Gilead. And Kepha said to him, even if all shall stumble, yet not I. And Yahshua said to him, truly, I say to you that today, this night, before the cock shall crow twice, you shall deny me 3 times. But he spoke more strongly. If I have to die with you, I shall not deny you. And they all said the same. So that was Kipha.
Exactly. So we know that he did deny Yahshua, and as the sun was coming up on the daytime portion of the 14th, he had denied Yahshua 3 times and began to break down because now he remembers his words and his promise that if everyone fail, I shall not.
But Kipha, the thing of it is, Kipha didn't realize is that Kipha had
he had a destiny.
Yes.
He was supposed to not see. And we know that without a doubt because when they came to get him, Kipha was right by his side and went to defend Yahshua. Right. Now, they sent the army in there. Kipha, he didn't slow down for the army. He took the ear off of one of the people, and Yahshua took the ear and put it back on because it was his time.
That's right.
Now, you can deny Kipha, Peter, that time and say that he was in a period of weakness, but it was a marksman that took the ear off instead of his head.
Absolutely.
I mean, what was easier to hit?
His whole
the
head.
Neck or an ear from the head? I mean, he only sliced off the ear.
And he did that on purpose.
It was on purpose.
So that
because he was defiling him. If an ear or a finger or any part
a priest cannot go into the temple
missing any of those parts.
That's right.
And what are we supposed to do? Shema Israel, the greatest command.
Right.
So he went after what? The ear. Hear, O Israel.
He sure did.
And so this man is now defiled.
Now he's defiled.
And could not go back.
But Yahshua needed him to go back.
Right.
And tell him.
Exactly.
So he put his ear back on so he would not be defiled and he would be able to go back and enter into the temple.
Right. He's
to tell the high priest, all of them.
Exactly. This is the same thing, or the reason why Daniel couldn't go back, or any of those who was with him, because they had been castrated. And so when Daniel was castrated, when the 70th year period was up and they went back, he didn't go back because he was defiled.
There you go. Absolutely.
So the next part is 43 on, and he is, he himself is under arrest, and this is the period of time that they now got past Kipha, Peter. Yahshua put the ear back on, and it says in I'll start at verse 43. And immediately while he was still speaking, Yehuda, one of the 12, with a large crowd with swords and clubs, came from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders, and the one who was delivering him, Judah, up to had given them a signal saying, whomever I kiss, he sees him, lead him away safely. So here is who is going to kiss Yahshua. And remember back at the sharing of the bread, Yahshua said to Judah, he said, what you do quickly. And at that point, he left because Yahshua identified him only to himself. So now he returned to Yahshua, leading an entourage who is there to arrest him.
Arrest him.
And he
that's
said,
why-
by the signal, I will
Who I
identify
kiss.
him.
Who I kiss, that's the one. And so they went in and he kissed her, the betrayal.
So 51 through 52, and a certain young man was following him, having a linen cloth thrown around his naked body. And when they seized him, he left the linen cloth and fled from them naked. And they led Yahshua away to the high priest and all the chief priests and the elders and came together at a distance in the courtyard of the high priest. And he was sitting with the officers and warming himself at the fire. So we can see that this is nighttime. What happens during the change in Israel? Israel get winters,
Right.
still even to this day. But the change over from to spring, we know that there are only a couple of weeks into the springtime. So the nighttime is still us a fire.
A fire.
All right, so 53 on, which we've already kind of went in.
Right.
Um,
And then down 56, they had many false witnesses
who came against him?
him.
Yes.
So that's with them building up their case, and,
Mhm.
you know, against him, because they had to, like we said, because the people had fallen in love with him,
Mm-hmm.
because all of the work that he had done.
So at this point, as they build their case against him, verse 60 says, Then the high priest stood up in the center and asked Yahshua, saying, Have you no answer to make? What these witnesses against you? But he remained silent and gave no answer again. The high priest asked him, saying to him, Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed? And Yeshua said, I am, and you shall see the Son of Adam sitting at the right hand of the Father and coming with the clouds in the heavens. So that right there, that answer right there, just put them into a tailspin. And they were like, you know what? What further proof do we need? Because this man right here now says that he is put himself as the Messiah and himself equal to Yahweh. And so as they made that determination, it is a charge against him, and the high priest, they begin to tear their garments. 63, 64, you have heard this black, what do you think? And they all condemned him to be
what you are saying. And she came far. And he began to
lead Israel
right.
in the absence of Yahshua.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I think that pretty much covers Mark 14. There's 72 verses. And so I would suggest that you read through, because we kind of skip through to those points,
Right.
since it is a long read. But please take your time, go through, and if there's any questions, you know that you can always, hit us in the chat or reach out to us in Facebook. Or YouTube, and we will respond.
Right. And you can also, if you need to, email us.
Shalom.
Shalom, everyone. Shalom.